Welcome to Binge Watchers, where we talk about the stories and characters we love and the shows they live in. My name is Ron, and let's talk about Season 2 of The Americans. If you haven't, you can check out my Season 1 review right here, but let's do this. That was offensive. Season 2 of The Americans continues to follow Philip and Elizabeth as they carry out their missions for the Soviet Union while still struggling to keep some sense of sanity in their lives. The first thing I can say about Season 2 is that it's a more personal season than Season 1. Like with most shows, Season 1 introduced us to the story and the characters, but could only get to a certain level of depth. There's a lot going on in The Americans, and the story has many different sides. The story in Season 2 continues directly where Season 1 left off. It's not something new or something different, it's the same story moving forward. I personally really like that because even though I didn't think Season 1 was some incredible show, I did very much get into the story and I wanted to know what these characters are going to do or what's going to happen to them. The season starts out a bit slowly. At first it feels like more of the same, just a little bit, but somewhere around the middle of the season, it becomes this tragic story about two people with impossible lives. You can see on Philip and Elizabeth that what they do is getting to them. They're human. In a lot of shows, you see spies and agents and soldiers who are super dedicated to their missions, but they're also sort of robots. Usually, if the focus of a show is espionage, it doesn't really explore all the things that this can do to a person. This was the most interesting aspect of the show in Season 1 in my eyes, and even more so in Season 2. This show goes deep into how these lives, the secrets, the killings, all of it, how it affects these people. Actually, not just Phil and Liz, but also other characters in the show that lead pretty complicated lives. A big part of The Americans is how Philip and Elizabeth need to disguise themselves when they go on missions. Because part of the season is about the mental consequence of leading these double or quadruple lives, there are these little moments where they sort of take refuge in these alternate personas that they have to take on. I thought that was done beautifully. And by the way, the costumes and disguises, especially Philip's, are pretty incredible. Season 2 also has a much bigger focus on the Soviet side of the story at the Residentura. These characters get much more fleshed out and participate more heavily in the story. I heard a lot of mixed opinions about this side of the story, but I personally really liked it. One of the things that I like about The Americans in general is that there's really no side stories. It's all the same story, just different aspects of it. And the Residentura side of the story is very interesting in my opinion. There are a few points in relationship that progress a bit too quickly and don't get enough background or an explanation, but in order to do that, they would have had to show less from other sides of the story, possibly more important ones. The Americans is full of suspense and action and lying and spying, and all of that is great, but one surprisingly interesting aspect of this show is parenting. As parents, Phil and Liz have to constantly lie to their children, but also try to teach them values and give them structure. As these kids grow, that becomes much harder. I don't want to talk about it too much here because it's genuinely one of the most fascinating sides of this story. I would say the first half of the season is a bit rinse repeat. The center tells them to do something, they go do it, it goes wrong, they get it done anyway, then there's another thing and rinse and repeat. The missions themselves, however, are done way better than in Season 1, much more interesting. Generally, this season is way better than Season 1. The issues that I had with the season are really the same ones that I had in Season 1. The performances are good, but still not up to par with the story, which is great, at least part of the time. Philip and Elizabeth are good, but they're always more believable when they're on a mission pretending to be someone else rather than when they're Philip and Elizabeth. And I know we can take that as a statement in itself because somewhere they're pretending to be Philip and Elizabeth. And maybe the only thing that actually makes sense is when they're pretending to be someone else. My head hurts now. And that would be a great point for discussion, but regardless of all of that, there are still a few points in the show where I felt the performance was just weaker than the story. Unlike Season 1, the ending here doesn't just set something up for Season 3, it definitely sets up something for Season 3 and does it very, very well, but the Season 2 arc gets resolved. I liked it better than how Season 1 ended, still didn't love it. Bottom line, should you watch it? If you enjoyed Season 1, then no-brainer, yes. Season 2 improves on Season 1 in pretty much every way. It's still a great, suspenseful spy thriller that tells a deep and complicated story. I felt that all sides of the story were necessary, and there are some very powerful moments in this season, especially in Philip and Elizabeth's more personal side of things. I think it's a good show. It's worth watching. What about you? What did you think about season 2 of The Americans? What do you think about it compared to season 1? And who was the character that you were most interested in? If you're going to be talking about spoilers, please use spoiler tags in your comments, and now I'm going to tell you 5 things. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out a lot. The winner of the giveaway is this guy, and there's going to be another giveaway pretty soon. Remember, you can go to bingewatchers.space/vote and vote on what gets reviewed next on this channel. If you want to talk about anything else, you can check out my personal channel. But in any case, keep binging, and I will see you next time.